Going great. Let's see. Let's see where we stopped last time. How's your day going?
Poring over the architecture diagrams and the foundation documentation and conversations that we've had, trying to figure out how I can plug everything into everything else. It'd be good if after this I can borrow you 10 minutes if you got time.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So I think last time, Joe did actually clean things up. Let's just go through his stuff real quick. Let's see if we can clean up the service and move on. I think it's almost done. Tokenization, right? We might need to do some validations, but that's it. Like if the query that's coming in is empty, null, or just consists of white space, do we throw an exception and say, you can't do that, or do we say, like, let it be passive? Like, I'm not gonna dictate anything. I couldn't find anything to tokenize, therefore I'm returning an empty array of tokens. And then whatever is downstream, I guess that could work. It could work. I'm just not sure. Let's see. Let's think about it a little bit. So this is basically this.
I believe with like collection type properties and things like that you're referring to, the sort of common coding convention is to never return nulls, just return an empty collection. Because
Yeah,
typically the code that consumes that, the very next thing it's going to do is say, all right, for each thing in that collection. So if you return null, that causes a for each problem. But if you return an empty collection, it just doesn't do the next thing, right? Because
that's
there's
right.
nothing to do it with.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So I would probably be in favor of just returning an empty array, but I don't know if contextually it's just hard to say whether that's right or wrong. I guess the consumer would have to decide that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And let's see here. I think Joe, what did Joe do? He basically went and said, no, that's not his stuff. I thought he pushed I thought he pushed something the other day. He said he pushed something. This here is the hard-coded one. We were talking about the randomized.
Did he not push it? I think he was
No,
still
no,
working on it at the end of the last
no,
stream,
no,
wasn't he?
no. He just created another test instead of. So we don't need that anymore. Actually, this guy can go away. That's what it is. He just created another test. That's all. There he is. What up, Joe?
Howdy.
Okay,
That fan off.
Joe. I'm removing the first test in favor of yours, the random one. Look how simple this is. You deconstructed, you said pass in this guy. This guy's supposed to match. Beauty. A thing of beauty. Let's just see what you did there that made it actually happen. Let's see. If the left side is clear, then sorry, if the right side is clear, you don't need to give a value to the left side. Folks who put the arrow. So what is this? You basically went and said a lot of one-liners in here. I wonder if it would be happy if I did instead of does not equal. What if I did is not? Does it? Nice. Love it.
Should be good.
Yeah, because it's a constant. It's a constant value, so it can. It's not. Okay, so it's great. What else do I have here? I have. You could just go here and say, here's your value. Throw that out. And just cosmetics, nothing serious.
I do the same thing when I look at other people's code.
This is var. There's a lot of if-else statements in here. Might need to clean that up a little. Okay, so what did you do, my friend? You basically went and said, I want, where's the guy that returns the tokens and the values?
Should be up top.
Yeah, that's good. So we keep that at the top. So that's the query, and these are the tokens. And you basically went and said, me, you basically went and said, okay, number of tokens to return, 1. Yeah, because if you return none, becomes a problem. What is that? This is a specific value.
I just defaulted it there in case we want to pass something in. So if you go back out to the actual test, you can just throw 50 or 100 in there. And
Yeah, I got it. I got it. So number of tokens, if it's more than 1, then go ahead and create an int range from 1 to the number of tokens. Just be aware that when you say from 1 to 2, that means it's only going to generate 1. Just FYI, because this is exclusive. Not exclusive. It excludes the second value.
it's
So if you,
up and until.
yeah. So in math, do you remember they used to say, I don't know how it is in different countries, but do you know, does this does this look familiar? This is the equivalent of an array that only has 0. If I say 2, this would be 0 and 1. I don't know if you guys,
It would be if your bracket was ran the right way.
yeah, if the bracket is like this, that would say, but I also heard some people in their school, they did it this way for some reason.
Oh,
Yeah.
weird. I thought it was a typo.
Nope. This is how we learned. This is how I learned it. But some people say no. In our school, they said it's like this, and some people say no, it's like this. I was like, that's weird. That's just bad code right there in math. So anyway, this is this guy. It doesn't really include the last guy. Anyway, this is a var int range get value number of tokens to return. Okay. Oh, so if
Why
it's
do we
not.
why do we pass in number of tokens and then separately have number of tokens to return? Surely those two should be the same, right?
Yeah, my thought is cancel this and
So
then, yeah, this is just a refactoring, right? So we cancel this and we can just generate random number. That's
Random
it.
number, yeah.
So if I go here and say, let's see, I can go here and say int number of tokens, and I can go here and say, uh, this number of tokens here is int max. Does that screw up our performance, do you think?
I would do a lower number to start off with.
So,
You can choose 25 since that's what the
yeah, that's
initial
what
value was.
New random dot next and give it a reasonable max value.
we could do that. We could go here and say um, max new random dot next like this. Would that work, Joe?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm surprised why this guy didn't dim out. Are you using it anywhere else? You didn't.
yeah, it's part of, I don't
Hmm,
know. No, it shouldn't be used anywhere else.
that's weird. Okay, let's take that out. So, so this whole thing is just one statement.
You could get rid of int range now that you're doing random .next.
Mm.
Basically, they're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Can you define? Yeah.
Like
So
literally, if you just put 25 there, it's
yeah, that's right. That's
same
right.
thing.
Let's just do it this way then. And when people say why, we gotta tell them, don't ask me any questions. I want to see what the performance tax is on this. Let's run this and see. Like, how bad would that be?
Well, then I wouldn't generate a random number between that. I would just see how long it takes to do int.max tokens.
Just to see the performance,
Yeah,
right?
because you're not testing performance now. You're just grabbing some number between 1 and 26 something
Look,
or other.
look how long it's taking. Look. You know what that means? It means that our algorithm is not efficient because the more numbers you add, this is how you know an algorithm is not efficient, is that the more numbers you add. Paul, let's talk about this. What's the We need to allow infinite number of tokens, literally, because it's not always going to come through the URL. If we are only bounded by the URL, then we are very limited. I think there is a limit, 1024 characters, right? 1024 characters or 2024 characters, right?
I think a lot of those limits are kind of lifted today.
Oh, really? Is that true?
I'm going to look and see what Chrome has.
Okay.
I think I would take the approach that for the purpose of the tests, you can assume a certain amount of length, but beyond that, I mean, you could. The limit is really like the amount of memory you've got available in your machine, right?
That's right. That's true. That's very true. That's right.
Megabyte.
So, unless we're doing like stream processing, it's are we doing stream processing? Do we just take this as a stream input instead of a string input? Because if we're using strings, then we know how long our input is as part of parsing it. But if we're using streams, we can have an infinitely long amount of tokens that we need to process. And I think those two are drastically different processes, basically. They may represent completely different business scenarios and might even warrant different services. I don't know. But I would say, yeah, for now, it's reasonable to assume, say, a couple of megs at max, just for the purpose of the test, just to make the test efficient, so that we can cover what we need to cover. But there's no reason why, if we tested for 2 megs, the same code couldn't handle 10 megs as long as there isn't sufficient enough memory available on the machine to process it.
Okay, so you're gonna rely on the metal to make this take off. I think that's okay too. What's
Yeah.
what's the max, Joe?
2 megabytes. So that's
Ooh,
approximately 2024-ish.
2048.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm gonna put it to 2048 then. And what's it called, Joe?
What's what
Max,
called? The Mac.
Max. Yeah, what's a good name for it?
I closed my tab.
Max URL characters limit.
Yeah.
So now I can take this guy and I can go down here and say my max is this guy. And their numbers of tokens to return. Token count.
Apparently, the maximum length for Safari is 80,000 characters.
Are you serious? So it's not. Wow, interesting.
Chrome is 2 megabytes, which is 2 million characters.
Depends on encoding, surely. Well, browsers assume ASCII, don't they? So it's 1 byte
Firefox
per
is
character, isn't it?
55,000. So yeah, it depends on the mechanism that you're doing. The Apache server is 4,000.
Oh, the Apache server, you could configure that. You can literally go into the server and configure it.
Yeah.
And it's gonna freak out, but that's okay because that's how. Okay, so let me just go here. So these guys are still doing the same statement. So let me just tell you guys about my trick when I kind of I kind of refactor some code. I call it CodeRub. If there's multiple statements that result in one thing, I lump them up in one method and just throw them on the side. This way you stay at the top level. I call it a top level statement, right? Like this guy here, right? This is a statement in here. Since it differs from one place to the other, we might need to actually just talk to, we might not need to talk about it. And I'll keep it this way. Okay, and what are these results? These are the tokens,
Yep.
right? So let's just call them. So random tokens, that's your tokens, and that's your query. So what else can we do here that can make this pretty cool? If the count is less than the tokens count, while the count is less than, did we do this? Is, uh, what was it? The trick that, there's a trick that you can do still using literal kind of language when you're comparing two things. I don't remember. Shoot. LT. We didn't do that yet, did we? Okay, so if random tokens count is less than the tokens count, then continue to generate. Joe, what if we made this just a range? What if
If you
we made,
turn that statement into an enumerable dot range, then you can do dot select on that, and it gets rid of the while loop.
that's what I'm thinking. Like if I go here and say, let's try this. If I go here and say tokens range, enumerable, sorry, it's enumerable dot range, right? And then you have, but then it's not,
You're
On
creating something that you're not using now.
yeah, it's not right. Yeah, yeah.
You're
What?
creating a collection just for the purpose of iteration. You're not using any of the values. So you're just creating something and never actually using it other than the while or the select. They're doing a loop behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Sure, I would say, yeah, that's a valid point in business logic, but this is just test logic, which is we're going to throw this away anyway. It's just for the purpose of making the test clear, isn't it?
Yeah. Or maybe there's even,
Then I would create an extension method that
mm,
just takes in the like off from an integer and then say create random tokens. Right? And then inside you move your loop inside of there.
mm-hmm.
Then you're just moving it around for the sake of moving it. Like if you actually want to go see what it does, you still got to go look.
So just check this out. Indulge me. Say that this is your token range. Okay, friend? And then all that you're doing is that you're going and saying, um, well, it wouldn't work still because they're attached to each other, especially when you're generating a word. You're going and saying, wait,
What about instead of using enumerable dot range, declare a new token array the size of token count,
mm-hmm,
and then for each over it? Or turn the while into a for loop, because then you've got the index, and you can just say, your resulting tokens brackets at that index equals get random token, right?
I'm okay with initializing an array just because we're going to be doing that anyways, and then iterating over that. So then you're not doing needless stuff. You're actually using what you're creating.
Yeah, that was my thinking. Assign the full array and then populate it.
Yeah, but then again, we're just moving the loop or changing the type of loop, which doesn't really.
Yeah,
change
I
anything.
wanna get rid of this sucker here. I don't want this guy in here.
You're gonna have a loop at some point,
Right.
so we
So
can extract it away.
you're basically, so this is not word type. You're basically going and saying,
That was just for reuse. I used it a couple times. The in parameter just says that you can't change anything.
in and out, right? So in
Yeah.
here, you're basically saying is not word type. This is not word type. Yeah, they have just two different types. And you reference both of them? Okay. I'm trying to find out if there is, so in here, basically, you're saying for every, get the next token type, and if that next token type is not a word type or last was not a word type.
Last token. That should probably rereading it. That should say last token is not a word type, and that'll make that better.
So if this guy is not a word type,
Then just create it.
because we can't, I see what you're doing.
We
Because
can't
we
have
can't,
word after word.
yeah, we can have multiple separator tokens after each other, but we can't have multiple word tokens after each other. I see. So if it's not a word type or the last token is not a word type, let's just say it's not a word. It's not word. It was not, and last token is not word. Because a token is just it's either a word, the type of the token is a word, so the word.
Yeah.
And you're giving it the whole thing, and it goes and says, let me find the last. Okay. And then in here you went and said, give me a random token for this type, and then add it. And then at the very end, I wish we, Joe, I wish we could have just built the query as we're building these tokens instead of having to do this step. Since you're iterating anyway, because you're gonna iterate here again on that same thing that you're iterating on here. So if you go here and say string query, right? I don't know, default, whatever.
Define it as a string builder, and then you can just append each time you do.
Yeah, that works.
So string, okay, var query builder, new string builder.
Yeah, I didn't think about using string builder. I just know that in the previous examples, we were just generating the query afterwards. So habits die hard.
Next token dot value. If I do that and then I go here and I go and say query builder dot,
Just pass it in on line 48. No need for the extra variables there.
Same thing for line 46. You could just do two string for the query and two array for the tokens.
Yeah. Yeah.
in
So both of
here,
those.
in this
Yeah.
area
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Stick them straight in.
The only reason I don't do that sometimes is for debugging purposes, and I just do this out of habit. Because you're not, it's still declaring something, so it doesn't matter as far as memory goes, because the compiler is going to create a variable for that anyways, because it needs the memories.
Yeah, this looks funny. It's funny looking.
Yeah, so Like, it's just easier to see what the result of that is going to be on line 45 or 46 versus getting out of the function to see what the result is.
Now, if we just can get rid of this part and actually build it as an array, because we know the size from day one, right?
Yeah.
If we can just do that, that would bring us back to what
Well, that would get rid of another
Turn
loop.
the while loop into a for loop, and the random tokens variable on line 30 turn
becomes
that
a
into
fixed
your
side
array.
array. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to do like token array with the fixed size, O token J, O token, and random token count like this. And then you're basically going and saying, instead of this, I'm gonna go and say for int I equals 0. Ugh. And I is less than random tokens dot length. I don't remember the last time I wrote a for loop at all, ever. And I is incrementing. You're basically going and saying, here's your random tokens. And this guy's gonna freak out because it doesn't know, but you know, we can do -1. But then in here we can go and
You
say,
don't need to inspect it at all because you can just stash the previous token.
yeah, you can just go here and say -1, right? Or was it the
Oh, it's I -1 because there's a length that's further down than the elements you've populated, right?
Why not just use IsNotWord for both of them?
IsNotWord for both of them?
Yeah. So IsNotWord next token type, and IsNotWord
Yeah.
random tokens I-1 dot token type or type.
You can just pass in the token.
You don't need to pass the token in, is my point. Then you can get rid of a method further down.
He's saying do it this way.
And then
Dot
go to
type.
the right, go to the right one character and hit dot.
That's it. See what I mean?
We'll see. I hope that works.
Well, based on what I read when you were further down, those two methods were doing the same thing, but one you were passing
Working
the
on the
token type into, and one you were passing the token into. So you had two methods that
Yeah.
were essentially logically identical.
Now it got more complicated again. Too much stuff going on the screen. But we got rid of one function. So if we huh?
We got rid of a function and a list.
And a list, yes. So this here is not needed. Now we need to get rid of this sucker. And then we need to make this big blob something much, much simpler than that. So,
well, line 45 can be in line, surely.
why don't I just why don't I just do this, guys? You know, I know the string builder is cool and all, and you want to do it, but if you go and say this is my default, and I go up here and say here's my random query, it just seems to be hang tight. It just seems to be something that would get rid of this whole statement in here completely.
You'd probably have to use string.empty because I think the default value for a string is null, isn't it?
Unless we consider, yeah. So it's getting lesser, right? But it needs to be also readable. Just because the code is less, it doesn't mean that it's readable. But let's just see, so far, did we break something? We must have, right? Otherwise, that would be weird, right? Let's see. That was a weird message. It said Microsoft SQL tools did not load correctly. Why do I care? I'm just running a test. That's weird. Okay, see? So this guy here had to do this. This index is out because when the I is 0, right? When the I is 0, that basically means that this guy will be -1, right? So out of range kind of thing, situation. Can I do or in here? That would make me happy. No? Okay.
Very
So,
baby.
Yeah, you'd
so
have to put another conditional check, wouldn't you? You'd have to say I-1 is greater than or equal to 0, and
Nah, you
that.
could do math.max and put 0, comma that.
or just we can do this. What happened to this? Give me the last item in the array. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, but you've already pre-initialized it. Wouldn't that give you the last element that you haven't populated yet?
Yeah, and if that last element will not be a word, it'll actually blow up because it's null. It doesn't have anything in it yet, right?
Yeah,
But if I do this,
I think it is.
let me try it.
You're gonna have to give it a
Yeah,
null.
nullable. Yeah.
Now it's getting really readable.
Hold tight. We'll simplify it.
Why not have farm
Yeah.
the if condition out to a method? Because then you can give the method a meaningful name, and the logic can be encapsulated in that.
Ideally, this whole thing is doing one thing, right? So we need to simplify it first. Like we need to go and say, is this, um, if I do it this way, would it be happy? Let's see. Do you guys know what this is called? What do they call this in C#?
Isn't it the null operator?
It's a null propagation.
That's it.
No.
Huh?
Well, we stole that from Perl, and Perl, the nerdy language for it is called safe navigation. Okay? But the street language for it is Elvis annotation. Because it looks like Elvis Presley, like his hair. Do you see the hair?
Yeah.
If you look it up, you type in Elvis notation for C#, it'll pull out this guy. It's
I
like
feel
this.
like this was a loaded question.
I'm just chatting with you.
I know. It's not a test.
It's not a
Didn't you know every question has sat
Everything's a
loaded?
test, man.
Yeah.
I have to look human.
Yeah. So this one works, right? It did generate a boatload of stuff.
The
Oh
first one
my,
too.
oh my Lord. Look at that.
That looks like a valid URL.
Well, that's the point, right? The point is,
What did it choose for the how many tokens?
oh, probably
Sometimes all those.
probably a lot. So just for all intents and purposes, let's do it this way just to see. So which one of you says all intensive purposes and which one of you says all intents and purposes?
I
You
The
never
know
limit.
it's
you
the
never
second.
use that word. None of you use that word ever. I
Oh, I
didn't
do.
hear. Oh, you do? Okay. What do people in England say, Paul?
I use the latter, but I know people
Rubbish.
globally that
They
use
say
the former.
rubbish.
Rubbish.
Rubbish. Yeah.
Yeah, that works. That should be 2 tokens, an empty space and a thing. And then if we go to random tokens here, what? Why did it give me 3? Let's see. Then something is wrong, right? This guy is word. It put 2 words after each other. See?
Because you broke it.
Because I broke it, right? Okay. Let me go back. This session here is only for those who want to.
Oh,
Hmm,
go to your is not word function and just make sure you're handling the null properly.
this guy here. If you say
Yeah,
token type,
because
it's
you're
not
making
word.
it null aware. So it's not a word if it's not equal to that. Oh, that should.
What do you think about this? I just fucking around with you guys. You could do that. Today you could.
It's not a word if it is null or is not a word. So it's not a word if it is null.
Wait, are we still referring to the method on 58?
Yeah.
I thought we'd retired that.
No, we still. Oh, no, we are. So okay, token type is not token type or
It's not a word if token is null or the token type is not word.
sure. I can go and say if it's null
It's the same thing as
or
what.
not a word. If that's more readable. C# is becoming just a paragraph that you're writing. Look at this statement. If it is null or not a word. How stupid is this? Okay. But why does this guy have two references? It must be used somewhere else that we don't know about.
You're using it there, so look at the one above it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Paul said use it twice. That's Paul.
So no, but what he's talking about is if you go back to that function, the one
Mm.
above it should be gone.
Yeah, it should,
Should
but
be, but there's another reference to it, which is
Yeah,
literally right there. I see now on 55.
last token is not a
So
word.
that
But,
just get rid of that whole method and
but
the
that,
one
I was going
below
to
it.
say,
Yep.
yeah, that's not referenced. And then if you delete that, the one below it's not referenced.
Yep.
So you can delete
Gonzo.
that.
There you go.
But is it
So
gonna
what
work
I was
though?
what I was suggesting earlier is because you're calling that the other one twice,
Mhm.
farm that out into its own method, and then call that, and then you can give that a meaningful name. So the if statement will be nice and clean, and then encapsulated in that is that complicated condition.
Okay. My question here is this is breaking.
Well, it might not be anymore. You just change code, so run your test again.
Okay. Okay.
If you add the next token and then pass the array into the if check, so do it in the other order.
And oh wait. You're saying like this first? If you go like this first?
The problem that we've got is we're looking at indexes, right? So you've either
Right.
got to look at the indexes intelligently, which means you know where you are in the array. So you've got to know like your conditions. So when you're on the end or at the beginning of the array, right?
Also, can
Or you
someone confirm that this actually means the end of the array? I remember we were trolling Nick about this, and now it's coming to bite me. I
So
don't remember.
that is the last element in the array. If you did the caret 2, that would be the second to last.
Okay,
We
then
did
this is
verify
good.
that. Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, Paul. Back to you. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was saying you either start intelligently scanning the array, or you basically do like a last where not null, and then take the one before that if there is one before that, and then you're comparing those, right? But the other way you can do it is change your for loop so that you start I equals 1, and just before the loop stick the first token
You
in
stick the
there,
first token. Uh-huh. What do you
and then
think
you
about
can.
that, Joe? Are you okay with that?
Let me pull it back up.
This is what Paul is saying. He's saying go here and say these random tokens of 0 will equal get random token.
So, we don't have a get random token method, do we?
He has get next random token because he relies on
Knowing the previous one.
yeah, shoot.
Okay,
No,
so
this is ugly.
call get next random token and just give it a get random token type.
Well, then I dictated then that every token that we will generate will always start with either a separator or a word. It will work. Like, not, don't get me wrong. If I say this is my O token type word, now you're not really random because you're basically saying I'm always
No. Call that where your cursor is. Get random token type, and
oh in
pass that
there.
into get random token. Yeah.
I can get behind that and we can maybe simplify it even better, but
Yeah.
let's see here. If I run this, Yeah, that it didn't like it either. Why it didn't like it? Something is wrong with this condition here. Something is really not right with this condition, and I think the reason is, let's go back here. I mean, we're still generating good stuff. It's just that let's say two, maybe three in here. So if I go and say, go ahead and debug this.
Oh, it's not caret1. It should be I, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it's got to be I
No,
minus.
no, he's gotta have to check the last one so he can generate for the next one, right?
Well, now you can do I minus 1, and it'll make more sense.
I minus one will blow up. That's out of the range.
No, it isn't.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I
because
minus 1 is always going to be the first one.
Oh, the I minus one. Well,
Because we
what's the
start at
difference
1.
between? Let's see.
I don't know what the caret's doing. I'm like, if
The-
you've got a fully declared array with, say, 10 elements, if
It
9
might
of them are
be
null, does it return the first one or does it return the 10th one?
It returns the last one. That's the caret. That's what
So
that
that's
caret.
going to return the 10th element in the array, which is going to be null.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's
because the array is
always
already.
the 10th element.
That's right. That's true.
So
So yeah, so by doing it like that, you know that the type you're passing into IsNotWord is definitely not null. So that gets rid of that null propagation problem down in there as well.
Okay, let's see why it's still mad at us. So here's random tokens, random query. So your query is just an empty, and the random tokens that came out of it is just one token that's a word. Nope, it skipped something. Look,
Random query is not
needs to also
string.empty.
append. Yeah,
It
yeah.
needs to it needs to be random token 0 dot value.
there you go.
Oh man, this is not okay. Let's see. Let's run this again.
You basically made it do well.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Let's see why it's freaking out now. It's very hard to break your code, Joe. That's the message that we're getting. Okay, so random query here is an empty space and an empty space and a single quote. So that means that this guy here should be a single quote and an empty space. This is correct. This here is correct. But it's failing still. Why? Then our business logic is broken. No, it passed. What the heck? I thought I ran this thing.
It doesn't update that until you're done running, which you just did.
1024. Sorry, 248. So if I run this again,
See how long it takes.
yeah, it should be a second. We need to run it on, see, it failed. So sometimes we created a flaky test. Yay! Sometimes it passes, sometimes it fails. Or maybe it fails all the time. Yikes. Yeah, because the number of permutations is very high now. Like if you give it like 3 in here, I bet you sometimes it'll pass, sometimes it'll fail. Let's see.
I don't
See?
like that.
That's a flaky test. So why is it flaky? Because it probably generates a word after word
At some point.
at some point, right? Why does it generate a word after word, guys? Then our test here is not
So
right.
here, let's do this. Create a just before your for loop.
Mm-hmm.
We can simplify our second part of that conditional just by creating an O token type outside of the loop. Call it previous token type, and then just anytime you add to the
I
array,
like that. Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So see, O token. Previous
Yeah, equals
token type.
or don't initialize. It doesn't matter. Default.
You you could. Yeah, it doesn't matter,
Actually,
right?
no, that's got to be equal to random token 0 dot type
That's right.
because we have that now. There you go. And now pass previous token into the second part of our conditional on line 40. So that gets rid of all of that. No, you still need the is not word. So just the parameter there is previous token type.
And then after you're done, you're reassigning it.
Yeah, so probably there or between any of those lines, it doesn't matter, just as long as it's inside there.
Let's see. Let's find out. Pass. Pass. Looks like it's working, Joe.
Yeah.
Except,
So if you wanted to get rid of the not conditional, but if you wanted to like hide away the or, you can make a function that has two parameters that just does the or for you. But
no way. It's
I
still,
don't think it gains you anything.
yeah, but it's
Why
still.
don't you just have a get next token method, right? And for each iteration of the loop, just get the next token. And if the token type is word, append its value to the previous.
Ooh.
And then decrement I and go around the loop again.
But then you break your because it's not a list anymore. So your expected number of tokens doesn't become the same because now you're merging two token items in the list together. Like if you say my list is gonna be 10 and two of them happen to be a word and a word, then your output will be 9 tokens out of that.
No. I'm saying like generate. So if 9 and 10 are both words, for example, right? You generate token 9, you stick it in the array. You generate token 10, you go, it's still a word. Okay, I'll append the value to the value of 9, and I'll go around the loop again.
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with it.
So the way that you would produce that is you would just do the append and then decrement I, and it would add another iteration.
I think this is perfect. Joe, he's basically saying, why do we have logic in our tests? Why don't we just, if it comes out as word, then just append it to the previous one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this,
if it comes out of as word and the previous one was word, then you got to append.
yes.
Should
we try it?
Thing rather, you're just doing the append rather. So you would just do an else here and then do your append.
We can get rid of the entire if statement.
The other way is you just initialize your array like we're doing, right? And you basically do it in a fashion where you just say you don't care, right? And you initialize the array, and where you've got duplicate words, you then either regenerate those tokens so you don't have duplicate words, or you combine them and then regenerate the ones that you're short by, essentially.
There
gotta be a simpler way to do all of this.
All right, so let's do this. So on line 38, get rid of the equals random token type. Keep the variable declaration, and then do a cast to O token type. So just in parentheses, do O token type. Okay. And then after that, do I mod 2. So modulo.
No, I know what you're doing.
So now you get rid of the problem altogether.
It's not random then anymore.
It's pseudo-random.
There's
We're
such a
doing the same thing. So the other thing to do would be if it is a word, do it again, and then you reduce the risk of having word after word.
Or why don't you just check if it is a word and then set next token type to not a word?
I want to try to do this. Check this out. I'm gonna take this exact same function here. I'm okay with this signature. The signature is okay. Okay, and I'm gonna call it version 2. Okay, and for now I'll have it return default. I feel like instead of having to do all of that, we could, this is the kind of stuff you see in LeetCode, except that it's actually useful. Wardy, do you know LeetCode? Have you ever heard of it? LeetCode?
I've heard the expression.
So people are crazy. Every time they go interview for a job, they go do this thing called LeetCode. As just a mind-bending kind of algorithms that gives you confidence that might be just fake. People go there and be like, "Oh, I did 20, 30 LeetCode exercises, so I think I should be good for the interview." So here's my algorithm that I'm thinking, right? Why don't we, just out of curiosity, you're generating a list of random numbers. This is inspired by Joe. And if the number is modulus by 2, then create a word. Otherwise, create a separator. Done.
So I would almost argue that you should do that to find out if it's a separator, but if it is a word type, make the word type random again between a separator and a word. Just because we're always going to have more
That
separators than words.
that doesn't solve the that's true. That doesn't solve the
So
problem of
is
having
it essential that we return the number of tokens that's expected in the random token count? Because that's only an internal variable, right?
we don't care about the number of tokens. We want the actual list because that's your expected.
Right. So my thinking,
What
when I
up,
was saying
Tim?
earlier, hey Tim,
Hey.
uh,
Hey, Tim,
so
do you
what I
like
was
algorithms? Go ahead, Tim.
what I was saying earlier is just generate an array, not caring like what token types are, and then when you've got pairings of words, just combine the values and return the new shorter array, effectively.
So hang on, Paul. You're basically saying, give me a random array, and that array of a fixed size, right?
Yeah, whatever size. You could basically just have a random number generator, right? And you can say, give me an array of that size. Okay,
Right.
so that gives you an array of some size of tokens. And
Right.
then you can
And then
say,
what?
okay, where you've got 2 tokens in a row,
Mm.
turn those into 1 token. You just farm that off to a method. Yeah. And then when
Well, you still have to make an if statement. Can we do it without writing if statements?
Using the modulus mechanism, we could.
How? The modulus mechanism doesn't guarantee that you're not gonna generate two even numbers in a row.
So, Tim, for your benefit, we're trying to figure out a way to generate a random array of tokens which doesn't contain 2 word tokens in it.
Paul is leading the diversity and inclusion in this discussion. We're like, bring this guy in. Let's see.
How about it?
We need a German brain, Tim. You know,
Yeah,
guide.
Hassan said you're the genius, so now I'm
Right.
expecting what's going to happen here is you're going to give me a block of code that is going to be given straight to the compiler. The compiler is going to figure out what code to write. Is going to write the code. Right?
That's the idea.
Isn't that how it works?
Here's the
We have to
problem,
figure
Tim.
out why it keeps outputting 42.
We want we need to generate an array of tokens with the condition that it can't generate 2 words in a row, or in Paul's kind of position here, he would say if it does, then merge them together. We want to do that without writing if statements. and without writing explicit iterations.
Okay. Why?
Why? Because because we're trying to generate a random query, an OData
Yeah.
query, and the
Yeah.
expected outcome out of it, like the expected list of
Yeah.
tokens that can come out of that query, right? Except that
Mhm.
how we're generating this, we're basically going and saying, um, you know what, to my to for all for we basically want to go and
I figured it
say,
out. You can use a link select operator where you also pass in the index. So you can
okay,
select the previous element in the row, and I think you can do it with a where clause as well. So you can generate your array, and then you can say where the previous one isn't a word.
what if
You
the
don't,
previous
you
one
don't need
doesn't
the
exist?
conditional either. If you do the modulus and it's based off index, you'll never get the same one.
It's not really random, yes.
I've given you like 6 different solutions now.
But they all have if statements. They need to be simple and readable. They can't have if statements in them. And they can't have explicit iterations.
Just
Do you
no.
know this
Just
very
no.
channel right now has half a century of engineering experience right now.
Mhm.
It's disgusting, isn't it?
It's just
Create your array.
We don't have a clue, do we?
just give me an algorithm. It's great for the younger generation. See, look, these are the people that I look up to. They didn't know what they're doing.
Mhm.
So okay. Let's stick with okay. Paul, is any of your 6 solutions have if statements in them? Because if the answer is yes, then no. What about you, Joe? What was your position?
I could do it without the conditional.
How? Just tell me the algorithm.
It won't be super random. You can always guess the first one.
No.
Yeah.
Would you accept a ternary instead of an if?
So just something for you to think about. My my argument here and what I think we should do is that um we were going in one good direction there. We basically said, give me a random array, and for every element, you're gonna say, give me a random token. So over and over again, you're basically doing a range, and you're getting that random token. Okay, great. So far, so good. The problem with that is that we can't have 2-word tokens coming in a row. We can't do that, right? So how do we do that without an if statement? How do
Does
we
it
do that?
have to be in one? Like, can you iterate over it afterwards when you generated everything? Can you then can you generate it and then make sure there's no double things in it?
Oh, so what this gentleman is saying, he's saying create this array and then go create another array after that
Yeah.
that basically cleans up this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was saying earlier about merging. So you select from the first array the results of a merge, but it's how you do the merge that's the issue. Because
How are you going to merge without an if statement?
Yeah.
Technically, a link select is a condition. It's not an if, but it's a condition.
Select is just a transformation.
Well, yeah. If you
It's mapping. You're just mapping.
It's
You'd have to
still
do a
doing
link where
iteration.
yeah.
Well,
you
not
could do
technically yet, but yes, it still has its own iteration in it.
I mean, you could say like where the previous one is not equal to the current one token type, but then you'd never get 2 token types in a row.
Then
That
you
are the
never
same.
get 2 separators in a row, which is possible.
Yeah, but that would avoid an if.
Hey, Paul, what if we threw
what if
the
the where clause was like where previous is not a word,
Ooh,
or
I'm gonna write it.
Yeah, where previous is not a word. That's it.
I could get behind that.
Because if you've got, say, I don't know, 20 tokens, and token number 10 is a word, and token number 11 is a word, and if you then do your where clause on that, you're going to get all 20 tokens except token 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no if statement in that. You're just saying where previous is not, where you'd have to look up previous basically based on indexing. So you've still got an indexing problem, but you avoid an if.
Okay.
God, he just keeps adding more conditions on that.
It has to be simple. I care more about being right than being done. I don't know if you noticed yet.
You just do an aggregate, a link aggregate, rather than doing a sum or something. You just put the previous token type in as your value that you keep passing to the next one.
Can we try where I started? So to declare your first token array and say
Okay.
enumerable
Okay, let's play with
range.
Paul. Let's give Paul one more shot. Go ahead, Paul. What are you saying?
Right. So your first token array is going to be enumerable dot range 0 to whatever.
Okay.
Dot select get random token. Right.
Yeah. Okay, we did that. Okay, we got that from here. What else?
Okay. Then do random array 2 is equal to random array dot where that's it. Now I think where accepts you can put two parameters in there. So you can say token comma I.
Yeah.
Token and index.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then in that expression you can say where random array brackets index -1 dot type is not equal word or token type. It's O token type, isn't it? Dot word.
Yeah. It's just an algorithm. It's a pseudocode. You know?
So those two lines of code would generate you an I enumerable of O token. So then you just do .to array and you're done.
But that's what goes. That will
it fail on the?
Go ahead.
Wouldn't it fail on the very first?
It will.
Iteration?
It will be out of. It will be out of range.
Yeah.
But also, Paul, what this will do is that it's random tokens, but they have consistent pattern because you're doing separator word, separator word, separator word. That's not what we want.
No, you're not. You're doing random tokens. They can be anything. So if the previous one is a separator, it'll still allow it. So you'll
only
end up
doesn't.
Yeah, you can get duplicate separators in there, but not duplicate words.
Actually, this is genius. This actually might work.
I think it's just the indexing problem we got to solve.
You're filtering the list. Oh, I like that. This actually might work. You're basically going, okay, let's try to implement this. You're basically going and saying, here is here's a list of O tokens. There is, random O token. And this is basically enumerable dot range, let's say from 0 to 20, right? And then under that, you basically went and said select, right? And here's your item, and you went in there and said get random token. Get random token. You don't have a get random token, Joe? Gosh dang it. Joe and his BS.
Yeah, we'll have to build one. And that's part of why you didn't like the test, because I think you're doing all of that in line in the test.
Right. So there's that one. And then the second one is that you're going here and you're saying, here's my O token, real random tokens. And you're basically going and saying from the random O tokens, where, oh, I see what you're doing, Paul. Oh, you smart son of a gun. But this will blow up on the, like Tim said. Yeah, it's gonna blow up on the first one. So this would work.
So you could say where index is greater than 0 or index -1 is not, type word. So you can use an or. That's not an if, right?
If you do if you do the caret 1,
So you'd always skip the first token, basically, because you'd be saying where the index is 1 or more, so that you could then do the other part of the where clause check, essentially.
hold on, what was your algorithm? You basically said where
Put it in as you wrote it. Put it in as you wrote it on line 35, and then we'll fix it.
yeah, index -1 dot type does not equal word. Oak
So
token type dot word.
Yeah, O token type.
Right.
That's it. Okay, so yeah, as Tim quite rightly pointed out, that's going to go bang on the first element, right?
Yep.
So a where clause is basically just an expression that returns a Boolean. So what we're saying here is we want the Boolean to return false straight out, because the way Boolean expressions are evaluated is left to right in C#, yeah? So we want to put another condition before we get into the index -1 that says index is greater than 0.
Where index, oh, I see.
So goes
Index
to index
is bigger
greater
than
than 0,
or
yeah, and you're done.
no, it's and, right?
No, or.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if that actually does something.
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah, I suppose you could use and.
It's and, son.
Yeah,
right?
it is and. Sorry. Yeah. I'm not that smart after all.
But then, but wait, but then, but then, Paul, that basically means no. I think it's all right. No, I think it's all right.
I'm just wondering, the generate random thing does return a list, so you don't actually need the second list, because you can just do the where random function.
Yeah, so you can take the two list off the previous, and then do dot where on that, so it can become all one statement. And then to array at the end, because that's the eventual result type that we want. And then from that array, you can then select into a new string variable, string.join result array dot values for each element, essentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me see if I can test that real quick. I want to see what this guy actually produced, because this guy is actually very interesting. You know, there's probably an algorithm somewhere that does this, but let me just run this real quick and see. So I want to call.
Link, you're building your result with 2 lines of code. Is what I'm getting at.
Right, right.
It's insane. I love Link. I remember. I think I solved FizzBuzz one line of Link once.
Yeah, yeah. What is this? Oh, let me skip that guy for a sec. Okay. Does this actually give me a good list? Remember that we still have to build a query, right? You're muted.
Sorry. You probably want to return real, or you put a breakpoint on to check the value.
Yeah. There you go. So what does this guy have?
That will have a list of tokens of which there are not 2 words in a row.
It actually has.
If my logic is correct.
So this is gonna be word. This is a separator. Word. Word. Nope. Word.
There's 2 words in there, is there?
3 words. Actually. Yeah. It doesn't work. We missed something. And it's probably something dumb, but we missed something. What was the original array that got generated, though? Yeah, this guy had 20 in it. And it had a word. word, and so on. It's something to think about. You know,
It's
I
a
mean,
little bit small on my screen. I'm on mobile right now, but what you're checking index? What
-1.
do you check? -1.
He's basically saying if the last one is not a word.
Chuck
And
us a copy of that
doesn't
in Discord.
are you sure that hasn't that needs to be an or?
An or?
You want the index to be larger than 0 or the other part.
Yeah, where's what you
I'm
posted,
just
Paul?
wondering if that's wrong. It's confusing right now.
So you mean that this needs to be an or? Is that why you're saying? Like this?
Was I right the first time round? Is that what's happened here?
That would be hilarious. Let's see. That would be really hilarious.
Or
I
it
doubt
breaks
it.
now.
Nope.
No, okay.
No, we were right because of
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
but
That
but
does
but
make
this
sense.
but this statement has so much potential though, because you're basically going and saying if the index is over the okay, and then the index -1, that type does not equal. You know what you could do? You could say, you know, the current type should not be equivalent to the previous type. But that basically also will apply to the separators, which we don't want.
Well, you would have to do 2 checks. If the current type is work, you can't. The last one doesn't have to. Can't. It's not allowed to be. You have
Well,
to just add one more condition.
because this condition is not enough, that's right. Paul, you saying the last item is not a word doesn't help if this statement is just too smart for me. You're basically saying the previous one is not a word and then pick up this one.
Oh, I know what's going on.
Tell
So
me.
let's say it generated 3 word tokens in a row, right? It's going to pick. So it's going to get to the first word token,
And take
it's going to go, yeah, we're all good. It's going to get to the second one. It's going to say, no, that's not good.
Mhm.
And then it's going to get to the third. No, it should filter that one as well.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there was some weird condition where it like. Hang on.
You can't get mad around that. That should actually work.
Anyway, we're at time. Please, guys, take a homework and optimize by Friday. I will try to do one too and see if we can actually, you know, it would be nice if we could actually come up with a simple method that generates the stuff that we're trying to do. So this is the real world. This is elite code practice that's actually useful. You know, anyway, thank you all for coming in today. Let's wrap it up. I'll talk to you guys on Friday, okay? Take care. Bye.